Yeah, that's right. Everything actually is about race. Now, why in the world would I be talking about this on an environmental channel? Well, because environmental racism is very real. So we need to talk about what this is and why people of color are disproportionately affected by the effects of climate change, exposed to the highest level of pollutants, and are not included in climate solutions. Hello everyone, it's Emma and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all sorts of things, zero waste, focusing on free, easy, and fun ways to live low waste, and recently, ways that we can all be activists, to include learning about intersectionality. If I talk a little bit too fast for you, there's a gear icon right down here where you can change the speed of the video to something that better suits you. So first, what even is environmental racism? So according to the National Resources Defense Council, they say the phrase environmental racism was coined by civil rights leader Dr. Benjamin S. Chavez Jr. He defined it as the intentional sitting of polluting and waste facilities in communities primarily populated by African Americans, Latinas, indigenous peoples, Asian Americans, and Pacific Islanders, as well as migrant farm workers and low-income workers. Study after study has shown that these communities are disproportionately affected and are highly exposed to fumes, soot, toxic dust, ash, and other pollutants from hazardous facilities located in these areas, right in their backyards. And as a result, many of these people in these areas face much higher levels of health problems such as cancer and respiratory issues. And these communities have long been subject to pollution dumping by these pollutive companies. But it really wasn't until 1982 in North Carolina that things started to change. One of these communities of colors was chosen to be a direct target of one of these pollutive companies, and it finally got national news. Keep in mind, that is very recently. That is just over 40 years ago. Unfortunately, the site was used anyway, which leached toxic chemicals into the water, into the air, into the soil. But again, this was a landslide moment because it did make national attention, and it has made national attention for the last 40 odd years. So at least now the ball was rolling and they could finally start to garner more and more attention for this cause. So the spotlight was on. In 1983, there was a request to the General Accounting Office to conduct a study in which they found that 75% of highly toxic waste sites across 8 states were indeed placed in low-income communities of color. A report followed entitled Toxic Waste and Race in the United States, co-authored by Chavez and Charles Lee. This second report found that this pattern was unfortunately more widespread across the entire US than people originally thought. But why does this even happen? No one wants pollution in their backyard. No one, no matter their race, ethnicity, wealth status, wants pollution in their backyard. So why does it affect people of color more? Well, if you are of a certain social status, you are more likely to be taken seriously. If you are a man, you are more likely to be taken seriously than a woman. If you are white, you are more likely to be taken seriously than someone of color. If you are wealthy, you are more likely to be taken seriously than a poor person. You get the idea. Not only that, but if you are wealthy, you have the money to dedicate to this. If you have the access of time, you have that time to dedicate to a cause like this. People who do not have the finances, nor the time because they are working too much, have the time, the ability, the energy to actually put into advocating for other changes. And that's not their fault. Primarily white neighborhoods, particularly those of middle and higher incomes, have had really great success in removing these pollutive projects from their areas. And there's a lot of different intersections here, right? These communities have likely more time and money and energy to put into that. They're more likely taken seriously because they have more money and white skin. And there's so many other privileges that are at play here. And this is all compounded due to legacies of segregation and redlining. These things have discouraged investment into these neighborhoods, which have eroded asset values and encouraged the dumping of pollutants in these areas because they're run down. Nobody cares about them, in quotes. So polluting companies seek out dumping grounds based off of the value of the land. No, they do not account for the value of the human lives that live there. It is the dollar value of the land that they are living on. So in return, these regions were rezoned as dumping grounds while people live there. This makes it perfectly legal for companies to do this. So once again, by the NRDC, they say that there was a recent study by the University of California, Berkeley, and Columbia University that illustrates some of the current effects. It found that African American and Latina communities had been redlined under the discriminatory Homeowners Loan Corporation program, and they have twice as many oil and gas wells today than mostly white neighborhoods. And unfortunately, this is not just a US problem. This happens worldwide too. I have talked about this before in depth. I will leave the videos tagged above and below. The US and other countries similar to us have shipped our waste abroad for decades. This is car batteries, e-waste, plastic, textiles, and so much more. The US and other countries love to say, out of sight, out of mind, right? Look, our country is so clean and beautiful. Our air pollution is in control. Our water pollution is under control. We don't have as many landfills, etc., etc. We're sending it to someone else to deal with. All of this waste primarily ends up in the global south and low-income communities of color. They often do not have the proper technology to recycle these things, nor the proper PPE to do this safely. It leaches into soil, into water, creates air pollution and physical pollution. And we can all feel better about ourselves by recycling. Now, I'm not saying to stop recycling. I'm saying that it is important to understand where our recycling actually goes. If you can do some research and figure out that your recycling facility actually recycles, in your hometown, that's great. For example, there's a glass recycling business in Louisiana called Glass Half Full. They collect glass in their neighborhood. Actually, it might even be the whole state of Louisiana, and recycle it right there on site. Take that recycled glass sand and use it to remarsh areas of Louisiana's coast. I love recycling solutions like that actually have an end goal for the recycling product. Not only on the back end of what happens to our stuff after production, but also on the front end of the production line as well. A lot of the mining for our stuff, especially our green stuff, our solar panels, our wind turbines, and our EVs, is done horribly unethically. I talk more about it in depth in this video, but here's the short version about the Democratic Republic of the Congo. If you buy an EV new, it's really not all that eco. It is pollutive to create, and people are enslaved as young as 10 years old to mine those precious metals for you. So we are harming people to create the EVs, and we are harming people to recycle batteries at the other end, on both ends of the supply chain. I also highly recommend this book right here, Cobalt Red, if you want to learn more truly in depth about this topic. I'm not saying this to make anybody feel guilty. I'm not saying this because I think we should bring pollution back to our own backyards. I'm saying this because nobody deserves pollution in their backyards. I don't want it. They don't want it. Nobody needs or wants that. We all deserve clean air, clean water, clean soil, clean food. And we all deserve to live without fear that we will be becoming sick from all of this as well. So yes, it's important to know that when you're buying a new EV, it has huge impacts around the world. So if you want an EV, buy a secondhand EV, right? If you want to recycle your textiles, look at a textile recycling solution that actually is transparent about where their textiles go. That's what I'm getting at here. Not only this, but let's also talk about who's mostly affected by the impacts of climate change as well. This happens worldwide too. We export our issues of climate change to other countries to deal with while we sit relatively safe in the US. But not always. This happens in the US as well. Let's look at the very recent fires in January of 2025 in Southern California. In communities with wealthy, mostly white people, the response was quick and all of the attention was on them. Not only that, but they had the means to recover, insurance, disposable income to pack up and move, extra funds to buy a new house, etc. But even just a few streets away in poor communities of color, responses were not as quick, less attention was on these communities, and they simply don't have as many means to recover. As I'm filming this, we are currently reading Not the End of the World by Hannah Ritchie from my Eco Book Club, which you can join down below. According to her, in this book, the US only accounts for 4% of the US population, but accounts for 14% of global emissions. The countries at most risk for the impacts of climate change have one thing in common: poverty. Not just poverty, extreme poverty. And why is this? War, specifically war over resources and land. The richest countries in the world want to get richer, they want more resources, they want more oil, they want more precious metals, and war is the best way to steal those resources. It's gross. And yes, all environmentalists should be anti-war as well. That's kind of a crazy thing to say in the year of our Lord 2025, but I have to say it, and you can learn more about the impacts of war in this video. These countries are facing famine, extreme droughts, record flooding, and more, which is leading to the displacing of people, on top of them already being displaced from war. And because they are so impoverished, their resources are being stolen from them, they don't have the means to combat these climate-related events on top of the war impacts that they are facing. And you can see that in the United States as well. People who are the most impoverished are facing the highest effects of climate change. So what can we do? First, care about this, please. But why? It doesn't affect me. It might not affect you. Why should we care? Well, one, it is a fellow human who is suffering. And also, climate change affects us all. Yeah, if you might have a little bit of disposable income right now, you might not be at the highest risk of climate change related events right now, but that could be you later. And second, we cannot be the ones making decisions for these communities because that is precisely how we got into this mess in the first place. The NRDC mentions an example from 2018. A white neighborhood wanted a pollutive factory to move out, and they were successful. The factory was moved to a Latina community instead, without them being consulted on the matter. This is wrong. Why do some people get to be part of the conversation and others don't, but it affects us all the same? Honestly, it affects people worse when they are not included in the conversation, and that is intentional. So center everyone in these conversations. If you're not in charge, say for a town hall example, voice this concern. If your concern is about a climate-related thing or a pollution-related thing in your neighborhood, make sure that you bring it up in the town council meeting that, hey, not every community is represented here. So ask why people from that certain demographic are not here and they are not able to speak for themselves on this matter. Everyone needs their voices heard, so please help ensure that that is possible. And I don't know, it's just crazy too that like empathy is now considered radical. Like, it's wild that I can empathize with someone in some other situation, you know, down the street from me or across the world from me, that it is so unfair that they are having to deal with the effects of climate change because of me, because of my country. Like, it is so sad that, I mean, obviously I'm grateful that I have clean air and water, but how sad that someone else has the expense of that because my country has sent it abroad. Yes, we should all have clean air and water, but it should not be at the expense of others. Now, thankfully, we have seen really great strides in this in recent years, such as in COP27 and in the UN, but world leaders need to do more. So keep speaking out. International attention does matter and it does make change. Countries, governments, businesses, they all hate bad press. So amplify the bad press. I know that you're not a world leader and neither am I. If a world leader is watching this, hey, do better. But even just us little guys, we can still make change. Speak out on social media, share content, read some books, get educated on these topics, and voice your concerns locally. No, you might not be able to stop global climate change, but you might be able to stop that pollutive factory from popping up in your neighborhood. Not only in your personal neighborhood, but the neighborhoods of all of the humans in your community. You may not be able to influence Donald Trump, but maybe you can influence your mayor. But what this all comes down to is we cannot fight for global climate change while ignoring the people right here in our own communities. We cannot ignore these other fights for human justice, especially when they are all interconnected. Yet again, another book that I love and highly recommend everybody read is The Intersectional Environmentalist, which you can learn more about fully in this video. Because we can't push for EV mandates while EV creation is literally killing people. We cannot push for more tech recycling when our tech recycling is being sent abroad and contributing to water pollution and air pollution and soil pollution. Yes, it's hard, but these fights do need to be fought together. You can check out my full list of eco book recommendations down below and leave your eco book recommendations down below also, so that we can all learn more about all of these topics and continue to be well educated. And if you like topics like this, you will probably love last week's video about eco-ableism, which you can check out right here. I truly appreciate you sitting here through this video, learning about this topic, taking the time to learn this, because it's not a sexy topic. I'm sure the algorithm doesn't really love this topic or this video. Your support matters, your views matter, your likes matter. So thank you for caring about this. Thank you for having empathy, even though it is somehow considered radical and also a sin. I think some pastor has said that recently. It's weird that I have to thank people for caring, but thank you for caring. And because this isn't a super sexy topic, if you could please leave a like on this video if you found it valuable. And again, leave a comment. Let us know what you found valuable about this video and let us know where we can all learn more in your favorite book on this topic. So truly, once again, I thank you for making it all the way through to the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one, but until then, remember that your small actions do make a big difference in the long run. Bye guys. So according to the National Resources Defense Council, one of these communities of color was well, now I don't like the lighting. Oh, the lighting sucks. It found that had been redlined under discriminatory